Well, hello, everybody. We're back. Trying something new. Let's see how this
Did you miss
goes.
us?
We did our post-game shows live, and we had a lot of people in the chat getting in on the conversation. So we're going to try our regularly scheduled episodes of No One Asked Us live for now as well. So hopefully if you're joining us, you get in the chat as well. No idea how many people are going to join this. We routinely had a pretty large number for our post-game shows. Hope to get that same number, but we'll see. If you're here, like, subscribe, rate, review, all that good stuff. Give us a follow and get in the chat. Get on the conversation. This one is going to be similar to a post-game show, but it is a season game show, full season review in a post-game format. We're going to talk about the Illini season now that it is 5 days since the season ended. We're going to talk about what has happened so far because rumors are already a-flying. About multiple things. And we're going to talk about what we need to do, what we need to see from Illinois in the offseason moving forward. And then also, again, this is not a Illini show, so we are going to talk a little bit of baseball, specifically World Baseball Classic, as the final is tonight between the U.S. and Japan and one Lars Nootbaar. That's Logan Lee. I'm Craig Choate. Thanks for joining us. Are you just going to laugh the whole time I'm talking here?
No, I mean, you're just talking. I'm just here. I'm along for the ride. I'm happy to see you. I'm sorry I didn't wear my Team Japan shirt. It's in the other closet, so didn't pull that one out.
Like and subscribe if you're on YouTube. Rate and review and follow us. All our social media channels are below on the screen or in the description if you are listening, wherever you are listening. It is Tuesday afternoon. Obviously, it's live, so I don't know why I need to say that. I'm so used to saying it in our recording. How you doing, Logan?
People are going to view this and listen to this after. We can't forget that. We're going to try this live, as you said. Hopefully people come in, join the chat, say what's up, give us your thoughts. But a lot of people probably will view and listen to this later. So it's okay. We can date this episode. I'm great. After the Illini season ended abruptly on Thursday night, I was able to just kind of relax a little bit and just enjoy basketball for the weekend. And that's what I did. Didn't really even leave the house other than to go grab food once or twice. Excited for a Sweet 16 and Elite 8 this weekend. So it's my favorite weekend of the year. And as I've mentioned, as we talked about, this is the first year in the last 2 years I was on vacation that weekend. So it was nice that I didn't have to go to work, but I was also like trying to split my time between like enjoying my vacation on the beach and also watching hours and hours of basketball. Yeah. And so I didn't have those two things really. It was pretty much just basketball. So, but no, I'm great. I'm great. And
the Facebook memory of our Houston post-game show from last year popped up this morning, and Logan sits on a balcony with palm trees behind him and his shades on. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. It must have been nice. I'm itching.
My family's down there now.
Again. Good for them.
If Tim's probably, if he's not tuning in now, he'll tune in later. Tim's down enjoying the beach, so jealous of the fan.
We are.
What's up with you?
Obviously, wedding coming up in like 3 months.
Getting married?
After that is the honeymoon, which we're having a cruise, and all we've been doing for like the last 2 months is just looking up cruises or not cruises, but like what to do on our cruise and all of that stuff. And I'm just like, I'm ready for that.
That sounds wonderful.
Keep this between me and you, but I'm more excited for that than the actual wedding. Don't tell anyone else on the world.
Don't tell anybody else. Duly noted.
Let's just jump right in.
With me.
Yeah, I'm sure it is, as with all. Let's just jump right in here. College basketball is winding down. It's crazy. It feels like it just started, but college basketball is winding down. Obviously, Illinois bounced.
What? Is it winding down or is it heating up?
That's a good point. Let's be honest. It's almost over. College basketball is almost over.
The current season is almost over.
Illinois bounced on Thursday. I keep thinking it was Friday. Illinois bounced on Thursday. By Arkansas. I think a lot of people saw that coming. Has anything changed with you now that Arkansas obviously beats Kansas? Do you feel any better? Have you had time to decompress? What are your thoughts on the game?
My feelings haven't really changed. This team was just a mess all season long. And I mean, I obviously would have loved to get for, the good Illini team to show up and, give Arkansas more of a run for their money and potentially even, win that game on Thursday. And then you never know. As we saw with Arkansas, they were able to get past Kansas. Not saying Illinois would have beat Kansas, but this is the same Illinois team that's already beaten two teams that are still alive in the tournament. Actually, three teams that are still alive in the tournament. So, anything could have happened if they could have just got past that first game. But no, I don't really think much has changed in my thought process. I didn't really think that Illinois was the better team in that game. I think they obviously had a shot to beat Arkansas, but it kind of the season just was more and more deflated the further along we went. So no, I don't think that my opinions really have changed.
Yeah, I think it's just, and I hate making excuses, but I don't. I said it in the post game. I just think Arkansas was misseeded again. They were better than their seed. I know their resume didn't say it, but analytic wise, they were better. They were the better team. There was no. I think Arkansas wins 7 out of 10 times against Illinois. It just wasn't a good matchup for Illinois. Arkansas is starting to play well up to their potential. Illinois never reached it. Illinois just never reached their potential this season. And you take an NCAA tournament berth and you move on. I would like to think Brad Underwood learned a lot from this season and the way he went about constructing the roster and coaching and the way he did things. So we'll see how that plays out in the portal. But it just came down to another disappointing season. A team that was picked top 4 preseason finishes tied for what? Tied for third, tied for fifth, fourth, tied for fourth, I think.
Yeah.
You get the 7 seed in the Big Ten tournament when you're picked to finish top 2 or 3. It's hard not to quantify this season as a disappointment. So, it all started back in December, obviously, when Sky Clark left, and that threw a wrench in everything. And then you saw some flashes after he left from certain guys, but I think it comes back to what we saw a lot this weekend: guard play. Kansas State guard play is outstanding. Xavier's guards are outstanding. That's what wins games, and Illinois had no upper class. Do you consider Shannon a guard? I consider him a wing. I think the guards were Harris and Epps. I feel like those are the only 2 guards on the roster.
The definition of that word has changed drastically over the last few years. Yeah. In old school style of basketball, Terrence Shannon is absolutely a guard. But in the modern era, where you kind of have guards, wings, and bigs, no, I think he was most certainly a wing. He was able to, attempt to initiate the offense, but I don't know that I would call him that. I think we've talked about it a lot already. I think a lot of the team's issues was leadership. I think it was, a word that we haven't really mentioned a lot. That I don't know that we've mentioned a lot, but I think there's truth to it. It's chemistry. This team had no chemistry. Yeah. You know what? This is one thing that I've thought about, and not that this is like any sort of, a tell-all for, how your team operates. What I don't think we saw at all during the season. Maybe like once.
A buzzer beater.
Well, no. Well, that I was going to go with a successful alley-oop. I'm not saying that that's like a thing that determines if a team is good or not, but this team has a lot of athleticism and players that can do some things, but the lack of chemistry, like even the attempts that they had to, to do that sort of thing, like the passes went three rows into the stands. It was just that there was no chemistry from the very beginning. Let me ask you this. And obviously this season can be considered a disappointment, and I think everybody knows that going into, going off of what the preseason expectations were and all sorts of things. But where would this team be right now if they did not beat UCLA and Texas at the beginning of the season?
Oh, if they didn't have those 2 wins, I don't know that they make the tournament.
No,
I really
they
don't. I think
certainly don't make the tournament.
yeah.
But how are we looking at the season right now? Yes, it would very obviously be a disappointment. But do you think we would even have had? I mean, at what point do you think the expectations just would have been completely diminished? Because of those 2 wins, we sat here and we allowed these expectations to continue to linger. And I know that for some people, those expectations lingered longer than others. I'll say that I was one of those people that still thought this team could make it to the second weekend of the tournament. And I know a lot of people jumped off that wagon weeks ago. But like, had those games not happened, I think we just would have closed the door on this season had nothing else changed. Had literally nothing else about this season had changed, and they had not won those 2 games. This would be an 18-win team that almost certainly wouldn't have made the tournament, and we would have been out on this season back in January, mid-January. And I mean, would we even care anymore? Would we even be doing a show like this at this point?
I mean, we'd be doing this one. The post game shows. There were a couple times. Was it the Penn State road game where we were just like, we're not doing it. Like, what's the point of doing this? I mean, it got close a couple times where I was like, why are we doing this? But I mean, obviously, I don't want to set a precedent that we're front runners here and only doing shows when times are good. So, but there were multiple times where I was like, I don't want to talk about this. I don't. But I mean, sometimes it helps. Obviously, in certain situations, it helps. When was the last time this team played 2 good halves in one game? Did they ever? From Jay. I got the KenPom pulled up. At Indiana.
Yeah, and they lost.
At Indiana, it was a loss. They played well. I feel like both Minnesota's and Nebraska games were pretty dominant in those games. The Michigan game at home, I feel like it was 2 good halves, wasn't it? The one that went to overtime.
Yeah.
But to his point, more often than not, Illinois got down 10 to 12 to 15 points, and they had to fight back, which, I mean, while you were talking, I went back here and looked some of the quotes from the locker room post-game on Thursday. Coleman Hawkins, I don't have the full quote, but Andy Olson from WCIA3 tweeted the full video on his Twitter. And he quoted, "It's not hard to swallow. It's expected when you don't move the ball, when you don't execute." And then Brett Barons tweeted from Coleman again, "We were never held accountable to wanting to stop mistakes. I think we made the same mistakes all the time. We never learned from it all year. Turnovers have been this team's bugaboo all year." It's great hearing that. I'm glad he's saying that. I'm so irritated that it's at the end of the year.
I know.
Why can't you say this in January? Yeah. Figure this out in January, and you might still be playing. I read him, and I'm like, no one has talked like that all season. All season.
It's been positive. Do we
need to look into the fact that he knows he's leaving, so now he's just like, I'm going to say whatever the heck I want? Yeah, or the season's over. I don't know what to read into that, because if you've thought it all year, why are you waiting until your season's over to say this?
I don't know. I really don't. I think it was all positive. Everybody was probably told to be positive. Brad was all positive. According to Brad, they were playing their best basketball towards the end of February. Right? Built for March. They were certainly not playing their best basketball then. They played their best basketball in November. Who would have thunk it? This team actually clicked in November, and then the rest of the season was not very good. It was just a lot of things. It was a lot of things. It's a lot of things we've already talked about. It was a lack of leadership, lack of chemistry, lack of a true point guard. Roster construction was certainly an issue. I don't think it necessarily has to be the end all be all. I don't think everything was about the roster construction. But you ran into some situations that you didn't know you were going to run into. And this is what it got you. A 20-win season, good enough to finish, definitely top half the Big Ten, but but that's it. Nothing more. Honestly, a team that I think barely just kind of squeaked into the tournament. They weren't considered one of the last four in, but like they were close.
Yeah. Illinois
They
was
were
misseeded
they
as
were the
well. They should
lowest.
not have been 9.
They were the lowest 9 seed. So yeah, I mean, it is what it is, and now you just move on from it. It was not a great season, not a season that fans are happy with, not a season that I'm sure the staff and players are happy with. But this was going to be an interesting year. I think this was almost a. It's hard to call it a rebuilding year in the world of college basketball anymore because of the way we're able to just move around freely. Players are, but this was essentially a rebuilding year.
Yeah.
You lost nearly everybody from last season. A team that 2 years in a row was amongst the best in the Big Ten, a number one seed 2 years ago. A top four seed last year, All Americans, and you lost everybody. You lost your senior leaders, you lost your veteran players, you lost your 3 point specialist, you lost your All American post player. So they had to retool. They had to rebuild this team. He brought in a couple transfers that he thought were able to help. His Brad Underwood's whole thing was they have tournament experience. They've been to the Final Four. They've been played in national championships. All those things were true, but I don't think that either of them, Terrence Shannon or Matthew Meyer, really wanted to take on the roles that were going to be expected of them.
There was no alpha on this
There
team.
was no alpha on this team. They were brought. They came here because they wanted the ball in their hands more. They wanted to try and up their draft stock. Did either of them do that? I don't know. Probably Matthew Meyer, I'm sure did. He's not going to get drafted, but he could find himself a role somewhere as a scorer. I don't know what Terrence Shannon did to his draft stock. I really don't. I just don't. I don't think he's coming back, and I'm not going to get into that discussion now whether or not I want him to come back, but I don't know that he did that, and he certainly wasn't an alpha. He wasn't a leader. So you're mixing those two in with three returners who only one of which really played significant minutes, and that was really only at the very beginning and the very end of the season, and then a bunch of new guys, one of which couldn't even stick here past December or whatever it was. So, this was a rebuilding year. For all intents and purposes, this was a rebuilding year. You hoped that you could have got more out of it, and now you just kind of hope that you're able to keep pieces together and see what happens this offseason and going into next season, because there's obviously still a lot of talent here, but that's where we're at. There's a lot of comments here. You keeping track of all these?
I've got a couple. I've got a
Okay.
couple pinned here.
Right.
But there was one other thing Coleman said after the game that I wanted to get to. Seconds after the buzzer sounded, Sky Clark committed to Louisville, which good for him. This is a great city. I think I've said since he left Illinois, I still think he could be a top 15, 20-point guard in college basketball. The talent is obviously there. I think Louisville's a great spot for him because they're such garbage that he can go and he can play like he did at Illinois, and they're going to be okay with it because they just need someone to run point and be a body because they've lost everyone. So I think Louisville's a great spot for him. But apparently that got brought up, or I don't think that got brought up, but Coleman was asked about the season, and this is from Derek Piper. Coleman Hawkins after Arkansas game, quote, when there's promises for guys, when there's little things like a freshman point guard coming in and bailing on you when times get tough. Pretty harsh. I wouldn't say harsh, but I thought that was interesting.
Being real.
I think that's probably the sentiment of the locker room that Sky Clark was. I don't know if he was the biggest problem in the locker room, but he was. There's a 1A and 1B, I think, and he's one of those. So I thought that was interesting. On the mark here, I've had this pulled up for a while. If BU wants an Underwood team, it has to be built around underclassmen growing up. Any upperclassmen transfers have to be supported players. His style isn't favorable to transferring in, quote, leaders. So I listened to our friends at Sleepers this morning. They have a Illini video up, which Illini Nation loves Sleepers, as we've seen. Sleepers Media, Greg Waddell and Carter Elliott. They're great. I love listening to them. I think they know what they're talking about. And they both kind of agreed that Illinois got away from the culture that they built the previous 5 years this year. I mean,
Yeah.
it was expected because the previous 5 years were guys that were here. We touched on them in postgame. DeMonte, Trent, Io, Kofi. They were guys that were in the program before the portal really became a thing, so it was harder to leave. And that's what made Illinois successful was you had foundational members. Just didn't have it this year because, like we touched on every episode, there were 3 guys, Coleman, RJ, and Luke. Luke was hurt, didn't play but 10 games this year, so you had Coleman and RJ, and neither of those guys have the personality to take control like DeMonte or Io or Trent have in the past. So I agree that a Brad Underwood coach team has 2 or 3 upperclassmen that have been in the program for 2 or 3 or 4 years. But with the transfer portal, it's going to be hard to find that anywhere, I think.
Yeah, this is a whole new world, and I think you're going to see it. I do wonder if at some point it levels itself out. I do think at some point there will be some sort of governance on it in terms of NIL and all those things. But as of right now, this is still very much the wild, wild west.
So,
And
question here. It is a one-time transfer rule, right?
You can transfer one time and not have to sit out
not miss
year.
a year. Yeah.
Correct.
So are coaches going to now recruit freshmen that are transferring harder because they're using their 1 year after their freshman year, so they're guaranteed, hey, they're probably not going to leave our program unless they want to sit out a year. So do you go get like say Sincere or Ty or Jaden? Hopefully they don't, but say one of them transfer. Does Pittsburgh and Jeff Capel go be like, oh, I want to get this guy because he's using his transfer year after his freshman year. He's going to be with us for 2 or 3 years. Is that how recruiting changes?
Sure. I mean, yeah, absolutely. I mean, once you've used your first year, yeah, I mean, I certainly think that's possible. I mean, I don't know that those players are any more or any less valuable than anybody else, but yeah, I mean, that's essentially how this is going to work. Yeah. You just gotta bring those guys in, and if they fit your system, if you want to keep them around, you got to make sure they stay. And that's where obviously NIL is going to come into this. That's where playing time is going to come into this. It's not that there wasn't culture. It wasn't nothing. I don't think it was that the culture changed. It was just there was nobody on the court to really help instill the culture. So I mean, I think that was the biggest thing.
I don't think a lot of the new faces were culture fits. I'm going to be completely honest.
I don't think they were. There
was one in particular that I don't think was a culture fit whatsoever.
I think there was a couple that weren't culture fits. I think maybe there were 3 that weren't culture fits, and I'll just be honest. But I don't know what your solution is there. We talked about there were other players certainly in the portal. Would this season have gone different if they had gotten a insert player name here instead of insert player name here? I don't know. Maybe. I mean, if you would have got a true point guard instead of Terrence Shannon, maybe. But then you don't have your dominant scorer. So, I mean, I don't know. This is the world we live in. I mean, the Matthew Meyer conundrum, and I know he's the player that you're referencing. That you don't think was a great culture fit, which I don't disagree with. Although, by the way, did you happen to see that he got a giant shipment of Monster in today? They made me laugh. I certainly don't think he was a great culture fit, but he wasn't exactly the type of player that I was thinking we were going to get anyway. He really wasn't a stretch 4, which I think is kind of what we were expecting. I think that's what I was expecting. He never wanted to play. He didn't want to play that role. I think he would rather have been a 2 guard. And I don't know. This team, the roster construction was its biggest Achilles heel. It wasn't. I mean, the X's and O's were certainly a problem, but this came down to how this team was built. And Brad will have learned from that, hopefully, and we'll put together a roster that better fits how he wants to play. But that also is going to come with returning players that understand the culture and know what this team is about and know what Brad is about, and are vocal leaders as well as, leading by example type of players. That's what you're going to need. You're going to need that from, assuming they stay, RJ and Luke, and maybe Coleman if he happens to stick around for another year. I mean, those are the guys you're going to rely on for that stuff. But also, you're going to need you would like for at least one of those players to be a go-to guy on the court, and I haven't really seen it yet. I mean, I'm hoping RJ takes that step at some point, but it hasn't really happened. So
Brad said post game he wants everyone in the locker room back that can come back. I believe the only one that can't is Meyer.
correct.
Everyone else has eligibility that they can use. Matthew Meyer is done. Coleman, I'm actually 50-50 on. I really don't know what he's going to do. I don't think he knows what he's going to do. Yeah, I don't think Terrence Shannon will come back.
No.
But everyone else, I think, should come back, which kind of we're talking offseason here already. So, Mark, again, with a pretty good question. Would you take a good recruiting class and a year or two of missing the tournament to have a consistent machine of everyday guys? I think he's talking like Trent, DeMonte, those guys turning through, rather than trying Band-Aid spots with transfers. So would you miss the tournament for a year or two and in hopes of having upperclassmen in year 3 or 4 to make deep runs? Or would you rather Band-Aid spots and make the tournament with first-round exits year after year?
No,
and maybe eventually get lucky and make a Final Four or Elite Eight.
1 year, yes. 2 years in a row of consecutive not making the tournament, I would be a little worried about, especially this far into Brad's tenure. Because we already had his 2 rebuilding years to start, 2 not good seasons. And then things kind of clicked. I think kind of lucked out with the Io situation and the Kofi emergence. I mean, I don't think anybody was expecting an All-American to come out of Kofi Coburn. So I think the emergence of those 2 guys kind of helped. But yes, I mean, to answer the question, I would rather have a year where, take your time to build up that kind of roster, but you still have to be competitive. I mean, the fan base is going to want you to be competitive. You still need to try to go out there and win every year. So if you have to, if you have the roster spots to go out and try to get a Terrence Shannon or a Matthew Meyer, somebody that can help you win some basketball games, like I don't have a problem with that. But you still need to be building, every freshman class. You still need to be building rosters that have these kind of guys that are going to stick with you for a while. And I think they do have that right now. I think we do have a really solid, what would have been this year, freshman and sophomore classes. We'll see again who stays and who goes. I don't know. I think it's a little too early to tell. We thought we knew one guy that was staying. I'm not sure. We don't know if that's actually true or not. But yeah, I mean, I do, again, assuming they stay, I really do like the mix of this freshman and sophomore class. Melendez and Goody, and the freshmen of Jaden Epps, Sincere Harris, Ty Rogers. Dane fits into that group. I do like that collective mix. And I do think, is it the perfect blend of 7 guys or whatever? I don't know. It's maybe still too early to tell there, but I think that's exactly a good group that you can build off of. But again, assuming you're going to try to be competitive next year, you're going to have to bring in somebody that can help here, because there is nobody that I mentioned there that I look at and can confidently say, you're my guy. Like, you hope you get it out of somebody, but I don't know of that mix who it's going to be, because 2 of them can't shoot a basketball to save their lives. They're great players. They're great defensive players, and they're going to be very valuable to do other things. But like, there's not a lot there in terms of offensive options. So to answer the question, yes, I would take a down year if it meant building things up. But I think you're in the position now where you've already started to build it up. Let's plug and play where we need to, but let's keep this machine turning, because I think they got something going.
So I think my formula would be, and obviously portal is still a new thing and we're still learning all this stuff, but I think the number of returning contributors you need going into next season is 7. Because a normal rotation, I believe, is probably about 9. Not many coaches play more than 9. And if you have less than 9, your depth, 8 or 9, your depth starts. So if you can get 6 or 7 of your top returners back from the previous year for the next year, I think you got to feel confident, and then add 2, maybe 3 transfers to come in and fill the pieces. So As of now, Illinois would have Epps, Goody, Melendez, Hawkins, Danger, Harris, Rogers. Is that it? That's if
1, 2,
Shannon
3,
leaves.
4, 5,
It's if
6.
Shannon leaves.
Danger is 6.
Epps,
Yes.
Goody,
Jaden. Yes.
Melendez,
Epps, Melendez.
Dane, Sincere. You're counting Coleman gone.
Yes.
Okay. So if Coleman and Shannon leave, Meyer is done. If Coleman and Shannon leave, you got 6 contributors coming back. You got 3 spots to fill. You have Gibbs, Lawhorn, and Hansberry coming in with Moretti also. So you've got a roster. You've got a decent team, but you can't afford to lose many to the portal. So if Illinois loses 1 or 2 guys to the portal, you're going to see a very similar situation that you saw this year going into next year, which Logan touched on it a little bit. After the game, Sincere Harris tweeted, I have it screenshotted, but I didn't have it ready. He tweeted a couple things, actually. One of them was 4 pictures of him, said year 1 in the books or something like that. And then the second one, I thought it was on my phone, but I guess it's not on my phone. The second one was, I got to find it. I'm so sorry.
He was basically just saying that he'll be back. That's the gist of it. He was saying
so.
He'll be back next year.
First tweet was hashtag year 1 with 4 pictures of him in Illinois playing or warming up or whatever. And the second one was for everyone that's asking if I'm staying. Yes, all capitals. I'm staying. I'm locked in with Illinois Nation. Y'all are my family. I love Illini Nation. Next day, it was gone. It has since been deleted. No announcement has happened, but that is fishy. I never know how to say it. You need to let us know how to say this. Embrots. How do we find out who ditched us for the portal? All over Twitter. All over Twitter. And everywhere
Twitter
you look,
and
you can find it. Instagram.
Follow the players on Twitter or Instagram. They will post it.
They will announce it. They'll probably announce that they're coming back too, because that's what happened in football. Everyone announces if they're coming back or if they're leaving. Yeah. Evan Maya has a good transfer portal player rankings, but I found out today that to look at them in depth, you need a subscription now, $30 a year to look at those. But there are tons of places. 24/7 Sports has a transfer portal. You can look at you can break it down by school, who's left, who's coming in, and all that stuff. On the coach side of things, get rid of Alexander and get a good X's and O's assistant. This is from Tommy Elam. Not going to call for anyone to be fired. I think Jeff has done a pretty great job, pretty good job as assistant, but I do think X's and O's needs to be, as far as coaching goes, priority number 1. Priority number 1 with a bullet.
Yep, I agree. I don't know where they're going to get it. I don't know what sort of roster or coaching staff shakeup you're going to have. Whether or not somebody leaves for a head coaching position or something else, we'll have to see. But yes, I do think that's the priority, because as we've talked about, I mean, issue number 1 with this season was roster construction, and issue number 2 was the X's and O's. You lost Stephen Gentry last year, who was very obviously missed on the coaching staff this year. I don't know, what Brad's knowledge base or skill set there is in the X's and O's, but yeah, they're going to need somebody that can do that, because that wasn't pretty. It wasn't pretty.
Some coaching news here. Jeff Goodman tweeting Penn State's Micah Shrewsbury currently mulling offer to remain at Penn State, an opportunity to go live with Logan Lee in South Bend.
I got a room
to go to Notre Dame. Penn State has increased its financial package, also NIL commitment. Shrewsbury grew up in Indiana, coached at Butler and Purdue. So there's some Big Ten coaching news for you. Some more in the chat here from Joe. Perhaps we should look at level 2 players to come to a level 1 program. There are so many good b-ball players level 2 who would be thrilled to play level 1 program with a full scholarship. If we're talking Division 2, we tried that with Austin Hutcherson. That didn't go well. But if you're talking mid-major, I think it's a decent route. I've heard a lot of rumors that one of our guys at SIU is going to jump up and move to a level 1 program. That has not happened yet, but I think it makes all the sense in the world once you see it happen, because I think it will. That's so sketchy though. That's so hit or miss, unless you get I don't even know who a good example is.
Jacob Grandison.
Yeah. Jacob Grandison from Holy Cross to Illinois, he proved to be a good bump up. Yeah. I was trying to think of someone in the tournament right now, and I couldn't think of any mid-major left in the tournament other than Princeton, and I don't know a single player on
Florida
Princeton.
Atlantic.
Don't know a single player's name on Florida Atlantic.
Me either.
So, I mean, in theory, yeah, if you can get the guy and you think he's gonna be great, then sure. But that's
I mean, I keep going back to this, and we haven't like fully addressed it head on, but like we just kind of talked about the roster makeup, and you mentioned the 6 guys, 7 if Coleman stays. And I know I've asked you, I sent you a lineup earlier this week, and I said, if this is the lineup that comes back next year, like how confident are you with it? I think we have to like address the fact that you're losing your 2 top scorers, potentially your 3 best players if Coleman does go to the draft. So if you're planning on having success next year and you're just going to roll with this group, then you're really banking on a huge jump from Jaden Epps, from RJ Melendez, from Luke Goody, who, as you said, played 10 games this season. You're looking at getting, figuring out Dane Dange's drop coverage. Like, there's a lot of things here that you're really banking on if you're not going to bring in a 1 or a 2. And bringing in a 1 or a 2, as we talked about, is a risk at this level because they're probably not going to be – there's a good chance they're not going to be a great culture fit. So this is the dilemma that I think Brad's going to be in. What sort of player do you bring in? Or assuming nobody leaves, which I think is probably not likely. I think somebody will leave. That's how basketball works now. But if nobody does leave, hypothetically, then are you comfortable with rocking with that rotation into next year? And if so, yeah, then okay, that's great. I don't know that I love it. I don't know that I see 20 plus wins, but maybe. I mean, there's certainly enough talent there. But it's just kind of be a little bit of plug and play, see what works.
Nicholas, if we lose a couple of guys, would you rather replace them with senior transfers or multi-year guys? I think you can do 1 senior transfer. I think you can do 1.
2.
Other than that, you need multi-year guys. I mean, look what happened this year. I mean, senior guys are transferring because they want to do exactly what Meyer and Shannon did. If they're transferring, senior guys, they want the ball in their hands. They want to try and prove that they can be a go-to guy, and it doesn't always work if you have multiples. So,
okay, so here's the other thing too. Would it have worked if there was a true alpha on this team? I mean, if I don't even want to mention anybody in particular, but if there was like a true experienced culture guy that was a vocal leader, a true leader on this team, and you say that person was, I don't know, whoever, and you still brought in those 2 seniors, do you think this would have ended differently?
I think the more important thing was point guard. I think they would have been more successful if they brought in a point guard as opposed to one of the new guys being an alpha.
Right. All I'm getting at is that I agree with you. I don't think they should I don't think bringing in 2 seniors who are just looking for more minutes with the ball in their hand, more usage. I don't know that that's the answer, but I do think there's something to just having somebody on the court already that can help be the coach on the court, be the leader, be the vocal leader, be the lead by example kind of guy. Then if you're bringing in players like Shannon and Meyer who don't have to play that role and can kind of work alongside said person, it might go better. But this past season there just wasn't that. So but yeah, I agree. I wouldn't want to do more than 1. And to answer that question, I think I'd rather have multi-year guys at this point. But I do think there's, if for the right person, I can still say, it's fine to bring in.
Dade Pitchford. A point guard I want us to get if he portals is UCSB guard AJ Mitchell. Sophomore, he is very composed and an outstanding passer. Played very well versus Baylor, 6'4". That's not a name I had heard. Looking at Evan Maya, a couple of names in the portal already. Jared Bynum from Providence. outstanding guard. That is someone that could come in because he's been at a high major program and be a good point guard. I think he averaged like 10.5 or something this year. There's a guy from Pepperdine that I saw, last name Mitchell, I think, shoots 40% from three. He shot about the same number of threes as Terrence Shannon this year and made like 40 more than Shannon this year. So he had a really good 3-point point guard there. And there was one more that I just Jameer Nelson's son. Jameer Nelson Jr. is in the portal from Delaware. I think he's 6'3" or 6'4". I had decent numbers in Delaware. The number one ranked recruit right now in the portal by Evan Maya is Walter Clayton from Iona. He was a point guard from Iona. He doesn't have stats on here, but that's who he has number one. And then a couple bigs, a guy from Fardaws Amac, the center from Texas Tech, is top 10. And then the guy from Bradley, Rink Mast from Bradley, is ranked number 2. So that's who's in there right now. I'm going to bring this up. I'm going to address it once. Phil's asking, have you heard rumor Underwood is talking to Texas? I have one sentence on that. Yes. If Underwood leaves, if Underwood has an offer from Texas, I trust Josh Whitman to counter with an offer if Josh wants Brad Underwood. If Josh does not want to pay Brad Underwood, I fully can trust Josh Whitman to make the right hire to keep Illinois where they're at. Josh Whitman is not going to let this program fall. If Underwood leaves, I trust Josh Whitman to do the right thing and get a good coach. That's all I'm going to say.
I agree. I mean, there's a handful of schools that I could see Brad leaving for, and Texas would be on that list.
Texas is on that list.
Is it true? We don't know.
We're not reporters. We have no information.
And Texas is still playing. And I know there's, speculation out there as to whether or not they want to keep rolling with the interim head coach. But if he wins them a title, I think they're going to have a hard time getting rid of him. So, that's all I'll say. But yes, we have obviously heard that. And it's little, we don't know. We just don't know. Texas is very much still playing. So.
Do you have anything else off season before we move on? We've been talking for like 45 minutes here. I think we both agree. Priority should be point guard, alpha scorer, whether that be a point guard. If those can be the same player, that probably helps. If you can get an alpha point guard scorer.
I mean, here's the problem. You need 4 things.
And then you need a big.
You need 4 things. Depth. You need a point guard, a true point guard. Mm-hmm. You need an alpha scorer. You need a shooter, a 3-point shooter, and you need another post player. That's 4 things. I don't know that there's
what were the 4? Point guard, shooter,
an alpha scorer, an alpha. Okay. Like there's no alpha on this team. A shooter in a post. Can some of those things be the same thing? Yeah, sure, absolutely. But you have to address those 4 things, and they don't necessarily need to be in that order. But those are the things you need to address. And there's not 4 roster spots currently open. So, I don't know how they're going to do it all, but those are certainly the things they need to do. I'm fine with Dane Danger. I mean, I know that his minutes kind of dipped towards the end of the season, but he's a freshman. These are things that are just going to happen. If he wants to stay, I'm fine with building around him. I think he's a good enough post player, but you're going to need more. We'll see what happens with Coleman. I mean, that's the biggest decision to come. And then the rest of the transfer stuff. I mean, as things happen, we'll certainly talk about them on here. I can't sit here and tell you that I'm, super confident that any of them are going to stay or that any of them are going to leave. I think everything is on the table. There are certainly guys that I would rather stay and build around, but this stuff happens. So we'll just have to see. I do think there's enough talent here to build another competitive team, but you're going to need help. You're going to need more from somewhere, and we'll just have to see what happens. That's it. That's all I got.
Okay. Last call for Illini in the chat. If you're in here and you have any questions or anything you want us to discuss, not Brad Underwood related, get it in the chat. We are not going to speculate on the status of the current head coach because we don't know anything. But if you got anything else, get in the chat and we'll talk about it while we move on to the tournament overall Fairleigh Dickinson. Did you call it?
No, I did not call Fairleigh Dickinson.
How's your bracket?
But I did call Fairleigh Dickinson's head coach
Going to Iona?
getting the call somewhere else, and Iona just makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah.
How was my bracket? I don't know. Not good. I can't even pull up my. Let's look.
I went old school this year. I printed some off and
highlighted
in highlighter and
so the one that I posted on Twitter and that we talked about on the show, I have 3 of my 4 Final Fours still left. And my championship game is still left. So that's fine. I still have Alabama and Creighton still going. Texas and Houston still going. UCLA still going. And both of my Elite Eights in that East region are gone. I don't know. I mean, my brackets are doing okay. I had one bracket that I know that I filled out. I had Kansas winning. So that's obviously out the door. As crazy as that first weekend has been, it's also like it's pretty chalky. It makes sense. It's fairly chalky. I mean, there's 2 1s, 2 2s, 3 3s. And then it was like, and then after that, it's like a 4, a 5, a 6, a 7, an 8, a 9, and a 15.
15 yeah.
I don't know that that's necessarily chalky, but losing a 1 in the first round is not something that happens every day. So Allison and I I've kind of joked about it with her that the night we started dating was the night that UMBC beat Virginia.
Oh,
so we would always have that night, but now that night is no longer special because now our second team has done it. So our special day is gone because that's no longer the only time that's ever happened.
I mean, this one was so much of a bigger upset.
Yeah,
like the numbers wise, it's unbelievable. I tweeted it out. Virginia was like 2, and UMBC was like 160 something in KenPom. This year, Purdue was 5, and Fairleigh Dickinson was 298 of 360. That's the biggest upset in college basketball history, probably.
Yep. Especially in the tournament.
Sorry, Derek Faber.
Yeah, Purdue was not good. Their inability to get the National Player of the Year, the ball in the last however many minutes of that game was embarrassing.
The next morning, I was listening to the radio. I heard a stat. They did not attempt a 2-point field goal for the final 6 minutes of the game.
Yeah, that So okay, there's kind of one rule of thumb in the tournament. It doesn't always apply, and there's certainly plenty of exceptions. Arkansas was really an exception to this rule. You shouldn't trust freshman guards in the tournament.
And what did Brad Underwood do heading into the year? 3 freshman guards.
Well, he at least had I know you want to call them wings, but he at least had some veteran guys there. But Purdue was rocking with freshman guards, and they weren't able to do what they needed to do. Again, there are certainly exceptions to that, and we saw that with Arkansas because they had 2 freshman guards and they handled Illinois just fine. And then they handled Kansas just fine. But yeah, Purdue's freshman guards were not good. I thought at first I kind of thought some of the fire Matt Painter stuff was a little nuts. But I mean, I get it. I get it from Purdue fan standpoint. I mean, it's pretty bad.
He has a worse March resume than Brad Underwood.
They lost to what, a 16, a 15, and a 14 or something like that. In the last however many years.
16, 15, and 13, I think.
Okay, he hasn't.
I don't think they've lost to 14 yet.
Yeah. So
so
they'll win the
my
championship
bracket
next year. So
yeah, because that's what Virginia did.
Yep.
So my bracket here. Look at the left side of that. Can you see that?
I can see that it was chalky until. You only got one team into the
left side of the bracket. There's 8 teams remaining on the left side. I got one of them right.
I didn't highlight mine. I only have 2 left, honestly. No, 3. I have Alabama, Creighton, and Kansas State left.
Sorry for convincing you about Duke. Sorry, I got you.
Yeah, you really kind of did. You really kind of had me buying into Duke. I'm glad that I'm still riding Creighton though, because I think they're dangerous. My bracket's doing all right. I looking at it now, I think I'd obviously, when I'm making Final Four picks now, I think I'd obviously do a little bit different than what I did originally, but I'm still pretty confident with the picks that I made.
I mean, I had Arizona in the championship game, and they lost the 5th game of the tournament. So
yeah, I mean, I'm still high on Texas. I think they're.
I got them winning it all.
I think they're good. I mean, the fact that they have to play Houston in the Elite Eight will be
for a chance to go to Houston
in the Midwest region of all places.
Yeah.
That'll certainly be a choice, and they'll have some. That'll be a hurdle for them if they can get over it. I like.
Did UConn. Did you know the Wichita State head coaching job was open? Did you know that?
No, I haven't followed Wichita State in 7 years.
Oral Roberts' coach is going to Wichita State. I guess we can touch on that. Rick Pitino is going to St. John's. Ed Cooley left Providence for Georgetown. Tobin Anderson left FDU. Fairleigh Dickinson for Iona.
Mike Bray
left South Bend for South Florida. Level up for him. The half retirement plan.
I like it. I love it.
Not a bad idea.
I love it.
I don't think there's been any other coaching things as of late.
Those are the big ones at this point.
Driving to work, I work across the river in Indiana, and the bridge I take is like this close to the Yum Center. Like it's right there. So coming back today for the first time, I got the vibes that, the tournament's coming. You can see things are happening down there.
Oh, I thought you were going to say there's a big Sky Clark banner hanging hanging on the side of the Yum Center.
No, but they had banners, Louisville welcomes.
Yeah, that's true. Are you going to go?
Princeton logo. I thought about it. I got offered tickets, good tickets for Friday and Sunday for $500.
That's the South. So that's Alabama, San Diego State, and Creighton, Princeton, right?
Probably the worst region.
Yeah, that's
worst regional. So
yeah,
that's kind of taking the shine off. I saw ticket prices dropped an average of 38% since the first round because Arizona lost and Baylor lost and Virginia, like the top 3 of the top 4 seeds have lost. So the ticket prices dropped quite a bit. But I was offered tickets in a pretty good area for Friday and Sunday for $500. It included some food and drink in that, but we can't go Sunday. We're going to be back in Illinois Sunday, so that's off the table. Tickets to get in are like $115 per cheapest ticket for Friday. I just don't. If there were 4 or 2 good matchups Friday night, probably maybe bite the bullet and go, but I think they're both going to be blowouts, so I'm not going to go. I'm just going to watch them on TV.
That's fair. That's fair. I understand.
Let's see here. Any other storylines that we want to touch on tournament wise? Who do you have winning it now that it's down to 16? Are you sticking with
I mean,
who'd you pick? I forgot who you picked.
Texas. Texas has been the team that I've been the most confident in, I think, for a while. I don't know. Especially, it was after I watched them kind of dismantle Kansas in the Big 12 championship game. I thought, I don't know. I've just been confident. I've been confident in Texas. I'll still ride with them. I still think they're going to win it all. My Texas-Alabama championship game is the one I have here posted. I think I'm probably most confident in that. I think that left side of the bracket at this point very much favors Alabama. I don't think there's really anybody. I mean, not that they can't lose to somebody, because they certainly can, but there's not even a 2 seed on that side of the bracket left. So the next best team, according to seeding, is Kansas State on the left side. So I think Alabama's going to get to the championship game, and I think they'll play Texas, and I think they'll lose to Texas. But don't look at don't sleep on UConn. And I know somebody just commented and say that Arkansas is going to win it all, which that is going to be a game. That is the most fun. That is the most fun basketball game on that schedule.
What?
Actually, I mean,
Gonzaga UCLA is the best game.
That I know that's the best game in terms of seeding, but that Arkansas UConn game, I'm excited for that game. But that West regional,
UConn has been my team since December. They were undefeated, they were like 16-0. I remember on this show, I remember They were like 16-0, and they were 3-0 in the Big East. And I was looking at their schedule, and I was like, do we need to talk about them maybe running the table? Because I felt like they were head and shoulders above everybody else in the Big East. This is when Creighton was down. Marquette hadn't turned into what they turned into yet. I was like, are they going to run the table? And then they went on the tailspin, but they have everything. They have guard play. They have Sonogo down low that just mollywops everyone. And then they have the big 7-2 guy that comes in for Sonogo. I think UConn Texas would be a fantastic, or even UConn Houston would be a fantastic semifinal.
I agree.
UConn's my team.
And when we were placing bets on which Big Ten team's going to make it to the Sweet 16, the fact that we didn't just bet on Izzo,
yep. What did I say?
When all else fails, if there's not a clear front runner here, just bet on Izzo.
The jockey.
That's
bet the jockey. Bet the coach.
Just what makes no sense. We should have just done it.
Yep.
I mean,
said it. I said
they're the only Big Ten team left. At this point, I wouldn't be shocked if Michigan State makes it to Houston. It wouldn't shock me at all. I don't know that they will. I think they'll have trouble with Kansas State or Tennessee, but at this point, it wouldn't shock me. This is a down year for Michigan State. So whatever. This is basketball, baby. That's why it's here. It's March. It's madness.
We're a half green household here. So
yes, you are.
If she's happy, I'm happy.
There's no green behind you though. You should put up some green in your office.
All right. We're back at it Thursday. The Sweet 16s. I don't even know what games are Thursday.
It's the bottom half.
Thursday. The bottom half. Okay. Yeah. So Florida,
Kansas
Atlantic,
State, Michigan
Tennessee.
State at 6:30 on TBS. Arkansas, UConn 7:15 on CBS. FAU and Tennessee 9:00 on TBS. These are Eastern times, and then Gonzaga and UCLA 9:45 CBS Eastern time. Gonna be fun. I'm excited.
Awesome. We're gonna move on. Baseball. I have not watched much World Baseball Classic. I've been a little tied up with basketball. I expected that you would have. We are going to do a show next week to preview our MLB teams, Cubs and Cardinals. I think both teams. Well, one team idled this offseason. I think one team got better. We'll talk about that next week. But we are going to talk World Baseball Classic. The final first pitch might have probably just happened. It's 7:00 on the dot. Yep. So probably just happened. It is USA and Japan. I saw a tweet today that more than 90% of households in Japan watched the semifinal last night. And tonight might be the most watched baseball game ever.
Yeah.
And I believe it. Twitter was blowing up more over the weekend for the World Baseball Classic than for basketball, I think. Yeah. If you have, and you said you haven't been watching it, I've had the whole 4-screen experience going all weekend, and the baseball has been outstanding.
That's what I've heard. I know it's brought in a lot of controversy around the internet about the World Baseball Classic, about whether or not we should be playing it to begin with. I shouldn't say that. I have watched some of it. I just haven't been tuning in regularly because I've been more absorbed in basketball, admittedly. But I mean, I'm still keeping up with it. It's been a big deal. It's a big deal for a lot of people. We can make the argument: is it a big deal for us in the United States? I don't know, but certainly, just judging by the social media attention it's gotten, people care. People absolutely care about this thing. So. The environment's a bit electric from what I've seen. Been some really good baseball games. I thought I would watch more of it than I have, admittedly. But I think it's a great product. I think they should continue to do this. I understand the concern that some people have with injuries and everything literally right before the season starts.
Yeah, we've seen a couple of them.
And that's obviously going to be a concern, but that can happen in spring training too. I don't really know why we have to assume that the World Baseball Classic is going to be any different because they're going to be playing baseball regardless. So whether or not they're playing games that matter or games that don't, that's not for me to decide. But it's been fun what I have seen.
Yeah. USA was pretty down and out against Venezuela.
Yep.
And then Trey Turner grand slam in the 8th decided it, and then they just smoked Cuba on Sunday. And then they're facing the best baseball player in the world today, who has said he's going to pitch in relief and hit, which is going to be awesome. I think Merrill Kelly is on the mound for the U.S. I was listening to MLB Network Radio on my way home from work. They said the total payroll of the starting 9 for the U.S. tonight, just this year's salary, is $211 million for the starting 9.
Money. A lot of money.
They said apparently the Japan's boppers are 2, 3, and 4. Other than that, they're just pretty average. So they're trying to get. They said Kelly needs to get through 4. If they can get through 4, then they got the bullpen. But that was always the question with the U.S. was, did they have the pitching? Because the lineup, as we saw, it's like Trey Turner, Mookie Betts, Goldschmidt, Arenado, Trout.
Trey Turner's hitting 9th in your lineup.
Yeah.
You're doing something right. But yeah, the pitching has been the biggest.
Pitching was like Wainwright and Lance Lynn and Miles. So
Do the-
it's basically the
do
St.
the
Louis Cardinals,
US
Waino,
pitchers-
Lance Lynn, and Miles Michaelis.
Do they just not want to do it? I mean, are they just?
I don't know.
I guess it's the
I haven't
DeGroms
heard.
and the Scherzers of the world that
Yeah,
are probably more concerned with other things. But
yeah.
I mean, they're getting all the good bats, but yeah, the pitchers didn't really want to do it.
Which it makes sense. I feel like pitchers are going to be more cautious at this time of year because they don't want to tear anything and miss whatnot. But Arenado avoided scare. He got hit in the hand, but avoided any serious. I believe he's in the lineup tonight. I'm not positive on that, but yeah, it's been fun. I thought we'd talk more about it, but we've already gone an hour here. We talked a lot of basketball, but it's been fun. The finals going on right now. It's on, I believe, Fox, or is it FS1?
We're doing the anthem right now.
Is it FS1?
Yes, FS1.
Yeah, I figured they wouldn't take primetime Fox away from whatever programming they got, but it should be whatever. Okay, we'll talk all baseball the rest of baseball next week. Do you have anything else?
No, I saw Shazam: Fury of the Gods last night. It's a movie, and that's all.
I saw Jeff Lowe did not butter. Jeff Lowe did not make it butter.
The movie was fine. I think it was horribly timed. I don't think that was a particularly good weekend for it to come out. The first one I enjoyed, but because of all the other stuff going on with DC, like it was just, what are we doing here? It was a wet fart of a movie, if you ask me. I shouldn't. Like, it wasn't that bad, but it was just kind of like, why should I care? I don't.
Yeah.
But that's all I got.
I believe Christy is caught up on Ted Lasso, so that will be on our viewing schedule, probably starting tomorrow. We'll start season 3. I had to wait for her to get caught up because she
dropping right now.
Yeah.
Mandalorian just started a couple weeks ago. Ted Lasso's back on now. Succession starts again this weekend.
Yeah.
So a lot of prime TV starting up again.
The Michael Jordan Nike movie comes out soon, doesn't it?
Very excited for this movie. Yeah,
I know. I am too.
It's like the same weekend as the Mario movie. It's like the first weekend in April.
I was going to ask you what you thought of the Mario movie because I'm seeing all the trailers.
I'm trying to be optimistic. I think there's promise there, but I don't know. I'm excited for both of them, but definitely excited for Air. I just love that cast, and I love that they're all together. And very excited for it. I saw they did a interview with, I think it was CBS Sunday Morning, and they addressed the fact that Michael's not in the movie, and Ben Affleck basically said, like, it's one of those things where, like, as soon as you try to put somebody in this movie to be Michael Jordan, it immediately takes you out of it. You know that's not Michael Jordan. So then the rest of the movie is just kind of like, a mess for you. I don't think Michael really had any issues with being in the movie, but it was just one of those things where they just didn't really want him to. They didn't want to do that. So. But yeah, I'm very excited for that one. That comes out here in a couple weeks. So.
Yeah. We also probably should mention Illinois spring ball started today.
Yes.
I don't think nothing newsworthy, but spring ball started. First thing I saw this morning, Joey Wagner tweeted out a picture of the running backs.
I saw that. It's a big running back room.
They're like 6'4", 6'3", 5'10", 6'4". Yep. It's like, okay, that is Wisconsin of the late 2000s, which is awesome. Yep. So, all right. I believe that's all for us. Thanks for joining us. We had a decent number in here, and the chat was lively, which we really appreciate. We'll continue to probably do these live because I think it went pretty well. So we'll continue to try and do these live. probably unannounced on a random schedule. We're not going to say we're going to go live every week, Tuesday at 6 o'clock like we did today. But just when it comes, join us, and we'll have a good conversation. So anything else?
That's it.
All right. For Logan,
Go
I'm Craig.
USA.